Are you ready?
There's no crying in
You
baseball!
think you can tell us what to do?
Alrighty then.
Think you can tell us what to wear?
Alright.
Think that you're better?
Just a bit outside.
Well, better
You
get
can't
ready.
handle the truth.
And here we go.
All right, everybody. Welcome in to an edition here of Morning Heaters. Morning Heaters, a Performance Edge podcast. Today, we have a awesome guest with us, a guy with a incredible background, knowledge of baseball. He is currently the CEO and president, baseball operations of Future Star Series, powered by New Balance. Did I say that right? Powered by New Balance? Is that right, Jeremy?
It's New Balance Baseball Future Star Series powered by Program 15.
Powered by Program 15. JR, how do you not help me with that?
I didn't know they had it wrote down on your notes, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we go with it. But no, it's absolutely incredible. I can't wait for him to dive into this. Something I won't say necessarily new. It's been in the last few years, but it's definitely coming on the scene hot here. Jeremy has been, here we go. He has been a cross-checker. He's been a scout. He's been helpful with player development, major league teams, organizations like the Seattle Mariners, right? Milwaukee Brewers, Minnesota Twins. He's a Cali boy, born and raised, right? California?
Angeles, California, born and raised.
Born and raised. But Jeremy, I'd like to welcome you on the show, man. Welcome. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, guys. How you doing?
Absolutely. So let's
Hey, just for the record, he claims Houston, Texas is being home. That's just
yeah.
he does.
I would go on record right now saying I was born and raised in Southern California, but Houston, Texas is my home. 100%.
He's a Texan.
Well,
it's good enough for me.
I guess I don't know if I count that, but you know, if that's what he feels in his heart, like he's a Texan, let's rock it. Let's go.
I think that's all that matters right there. He is a Texan. It is official.
Until he gets around his Cali friends, and then
Somebody in this conversation was born in Mississippi.
Oh,
I'm just gonna go out and say
you had to pull that out.
this is true. But I got to Texas as fast as I could.
That is.
okay. And I still have a home there technically.
You're right. You're right.
Okay.
And Boston.
Houston or Katy? Does he claim Houston or Katy?
It's same.
Is where I'm
Yeah,
at.
I can go with it, man. I'm jealous. I think California is the prettiest and just unbelievable time out there on the West Coast. So, and wishing them well right now through this pandemic. But let's jump into it. Future Star Series. Okay, let's talk about this. Give us a little background and kind of what's the idea behind it, and what do we have looking for? Look forward to here.
Yeah, man. So when I left Seattle, or I guess for my last little bit of time in Seattle, what I noticed on the club side and the Major League Baseball side was there was a big disconnect between player development, how we were evaluating players, how we were using, at that time, early stages of technology compared to where we are today. Even some of the analytical models we're still not very advanced yet as far as deeper insights into players and role prediction in the future. And in the baseball world, whether it's college, whether it's professional baseball, it is about role prediction. Okay, for me and all of us on the pro side, we have spent a lot of time dissatisfied, I think is the best way of saying it, with showcase baseball, with costs on families, with some of the things that were rising and climbing, and what I felt was like leaving players in a place that when they did advance, and keep in mind this is from the club side, right? This is from that side. It was like a rebuild. It was starting over. And what you had to do was take a deeper dive into why that was happening. Now, that wasn't universal, and it sure wasn't an indictment of any one player or person, but as an industry, we were failing players.
Yeah.
And I think that was a big problem. So, we started out with working with some pro guys, as you guys remember, because, being at the time that was, and then it kind of evolved into taking a hard look at the amateur space and what that can mean. New Balance Baseball agreed with where we were and made it their global initiative in 2016. From there, we have expanded into a system that's player development first, uses exposure as a byproduct, have major league professionals at every single stop, whether it's our coordinators, whether it's our VP of player personnel, whether it's myself, whether it's our extended scouts, even some of the people we work with regionally that help us in our events in those areas are pro people. And we have developed over time a role prediction model that goes far beyond OFP, that takes technology, that takes athletic markers and and formulas in our own blend of analytics, not just game performance, but technological compiled with subjective, into a model that's now spread out in 13 different countries and has seen over $40 million in our first three signature events in Fenway Park.
Wow.
This will continue. We have 22 major league executives or player development personnel that are on our advisory board. A lot of people, at the beginning said, Jeremy, this is just your friends. Well, look, I've got relationships, but people aren't ever going to put their names and their major league club logos next to it unless they believe in it. They're not going to do something that's going to put egg on their face. These guys are active. I talk to scouting directors daily. I talk to cross-checkers or area guys. It's a wide scope of things that we need to do to make sure we're doing things the right way in the vision that we've created collectively. Along with that, now we've announced Major League Scouting associations, and you guys may or may not have seen that, but Southeast Scouts are involved. We announced, the Four Corner Scouts today. Tomorrow there will be another one. I anticipate Friday there'll be another one, maybe a couple more in the next week. As we take this developmental series into the fall, our summer calendar, and into the spring, so that players are always finding a way in a cost-effective manner to continue to advance into what the role that's ultimately going to get them paid is going to be.
Yeah.
Now, that includes college, certainly includes professional baseball, but the idea is that every time a player shows up at one of our events, whether it's a partner program, whether it's a team tournament, whether it is a scout day, is that they leave better than when they showed up.
So is this tailored for the top athlete, the top pitcher, the top hitter, the 1 or 2%, or is it for all high school guys that are looking to advance, not just into pro ball, but to college ball?
Sure. That's a great question. I'm really actually, D, I'm glad you asked that, because when we started this, and I say we because, obviously the Mississippian is on the staff, right? So he was involved from the beginning. You've been involved from the ground level when we talked about this. It was designed for everybody. It really was. It was designed to take whatever we could and help every player get better.
Yeah.
What has ended up happening over the last couple of years is that people have looked at our backgrounds and our resumes and assumed that we only want the 1 or 2% type of player to see. It's not the case.
Yeah.
What is true, however, though, is if you're a player that we don't think is a Division I player, we're going to tell you. If you're a player that we don't think is a pro player, we're going to tell you. We're also going to help you be the best version of you we can be and try to help you advance and focus you into where we think that needs to be. But we're not going to lie to you or mislead you for the purpose of having you write a check. That's not going to happen. So.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what's missing in the industry is there's plenty of showcases. There's plenty of events. There's plenty of places to write checks and process credit cards. But I'm trying to figure out what is it that the athlete is after. And there has to be some kind of measurable or some sort of report to where it just lets them know where they stand, right? I use the example all the time. Jeremy, if you want to go to Harvard or you want to go to Rice, there's an obvious standard there academically. You get it, you have a chance of getting in. If you don't, you don't. If you want to spin a ball at Texas, it's the same way. So is your program somewhere where guys can be measured and broken down and say, hey, here's where you stack up amongst your peers, and basically this is where you're headed?
Yeah, and the best part about what you just said, I'm going to hone in on the word measured, right? Because that's kind of a hot button topic today. Why, I don't necessarily know, but it's kind of a hot button topic today, okay? We've been measuring people athletically since sports began. It's just a different ways of doing it, right? Sometimes it's a mental library that you have. Sometimes it's with a radar gun or a stopwatch. Those are all ways to measure. They're all tool standards, and they may be simple, if you will, especially in the radar and stopwatch format, compared to what we have today with cameras and different numbers, different forms of technology that we're using. Blast motion comes to mind. It's a lot more complex, even though it's still a simple tool than, say, I don't know, a stopwatch, right? It's just different. So we measure players subjectively and objectively, and what we do is we take the subjective measurement against our library, against the players that we've seen that have advanced. Our VP of player personnel, as a side, has signed Robinson Cano and Raul Acuna and Luis Severino and Gary Sanchez. So that's Alfonso Soriano. That's a pretty good library, right? So you take the library and you put that against a kid like, we'll use him because he's sitting here looking at me. We'll say we take it against J.R. Barton, and hey, J.R. Barton is a prospect. What do we got? How does he stack up there, ability wise? Where is he possibly going to fit? What's the best? And then we use the technology to pardon the word, cross check ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. That's how you should be using it, is using the technology to show you what you can't see. And with us, players get all of that together, and they get a role building roadmap that helps them understand where they can get to and how far they go. What we've seen is obviously is the growth, and best part about it is the programs and the trainers that we work with, or that work with these athletes on the ground every day. They realize we're not out to kind of like take the players away. We're just trying to make them better.
Yeah.
We're trying to help these guys go, and we send them back. And it becomes a pretty fun group effort to be a part of. So it becomes holistic, it becomes complete, it becomes, foundational, and also becomes something where they advance.
Yeah. So, and to kind of go back to the beginning, and in simple terms, keep in mind, like the audience, you have a lot of high school kids listening to this, a lot of parents, right? On your website, and I've heard you say this before years back, change the game. So a two-part question here. First question, what about the game needs to be changed? You can say it.
How much time you got, fella?
That is true. We got about an hour and a half here, Jeremy. But I mean, no, let's just go simple. What about it? You were born, I think the 70s, right? So you rocked the 80s and the 90s playing the game. Yep. It is different today than what it was then.
Yes, there's 3 or 4 things that need to be changed that come off the top of my head that I would call simple. Okay. The first one is, and I talked about, in the inception of the series in P15, is just the general cost of what things are today to the family, right? To play sports. I really have a problem with that. And we try to discount everything we can. We're 50% of the cost of anybody else for what it takes to get through it. And I think that people have gotten, rich on saying things that aren't necessarily true. Yeah. So that's a problem for me. That's got to stop. Okay. Something else I think is that somewhere along the line, we lost some respect for the big leagues. Now, I'm not talking about you. I'm not talking about JR or anybody in the room. And obviously I'm sure as heck not talking about me. I think people got to understand that it's really hard to play there. It doesn't matter what era it's in. It's really hard to play there. We lose respect for guys who have done it. And now today, women, as they continue to break through with Kimming, with the Marlins, who's had such a long career, some of the now female coaches that have worked into the game, we really lose respect for people that have done that from a scouting perspective, from a playing perspective. I'm going to go on record now, and I've said this publicly, but I want to say it again. Anybody that's listening to this podcast, it's amazingly fast and amazingly difficult to do. And to disrespect openly what that means to achieve that level and the knowledge that comes with it is a disservice to the game. That has to stop. Okay. It doesn't mean that because you didn't do it, you don't have a place. It doesn't mean that because your knowledge or your level of experience is beneath that you don't have a voice and you can't be of value. That's the game is full of scouts who never played an inning. And some of the best coaches I had as an amateur never played a pitch. Like, they just never did a professional baseball. It was always about how they could give back, whether it was connecting to the player, whether it was a piece of knowledge they had to pass on. There's so many different ways to do it besides having played or worn that uniform. But we have lost that balance of respect towards that.
Yeah, I think it's called ego. And obviously in this world we have it. I mean, I'll go here and say it. Like, if you look at like my career as far as what I've done, it's not very impressive. Definitely not compared to you, not compared to half the guys that I'm training and working. Speaking of ego, my knowledge is impressive, right? My work ethic is impressive, and when you're handling pro guys or however, there is a different way and approach to go about it. For me and for our guys, it's about being able to give back and help these guys through the process. And then for some reason, it seems like today, I said it, we had a guy on here a couple of weeks ago, and I think he's one of the best pitching coaches in the country. You wouldn't know that by his Twitter followers because he doesn't have one. And that's how we're measuring people is by likes. So you're getting this gimmicky and pushy stuff on there. And that's what people are following. It's like, I'm thinking about writing another book, Kyle Bodie's How to Go Velocity, volume 17 with weighted balls and plyos, right? There's a company out there on the East Coast. I'll leave it at that. They do a lot of online training. I know because I've seen it, a couple of guys that have come in here, and it is literally, they're charging people $300 to $3,000 a year. And it's literally Drivelines how to word by word. So I just sent it to Driveline like, hey, this is what you guys are doing. And this is being creative. I mean, this is changing the game and stuff like that. And it just blows my mind that this is what's tolerated and accepted in baseball.
Yeah, to that point, and that was my third thing is that, because part of going with losing respect in the big leagues is that we have a tendency to set our standards lower, which I think is a societal problem as opposed to an industry problem. We need to shoot for the highest level and then understand that the way it's played with the best players in the world, the way it's evaluated is the ways that it should be evaluated at the lower levels, right? Because if it works at the highest level, it'll work at the levels beneath it, but it doesn't go the other way. The third problem, though, D, is kind of what you just said, is that the wrong guy's got the microphone right now. They've had the microphone. You just told me about a pitching coach who you said was the best in the country. Doesn't have, Twitter followers don't add up, and we're going by likes. And okay, we've not listening to guys like that. The wrong guy's got the mic. Now, it doesn't mean you can't take it back. It doesn't mean you can't make your voice heard. Some people do that in different ways. Some people are very forceful with it. Some people are very gentle. But we have to get back to a general respect for the people that are in this game, that are contributing at all levels. We have to get back to a respect for the guys that are part of the less than 20,000 major league players that did it, and the scouts that have signed big leaguers, and the guys that have developed at all levels. There is a hierarchy of respect for achieving. Now, that said, they call it a resume for a reason, right? It's behind you. It's in your past. It's what you've done. Like, that means nothing today. You have to continue to move forward. My resume, I've been very fortunate to be part of, I have some good teachers and spend 4 years now in professional baseball in some capacity. I've been very fortunate to grow up in the game. I've had a lot of blessings when it comes to that pro life. But what I will tell you, and I'll say this again, is that all of that is yesterday.
Yeah.
And nobody cares. Barry Bonds is arguably the best hitter we've ever seen, regardless of.
No. We settled this earlier on the show, Morning Heaters. He's the greatest hitter of all time.
Okay, so let's just say he's the greatest hitter of all time, regardless of and nobody cares. Like, we don't care. So if that guy doesn't, if we don't care about his resume, man, my resume doesn't mean anything. It's all about what you're doing today to impact. And I think we get really kind of caught up in a balance of, and you said ego, I'll say it this way, a balance of not respecting the guys that did it, but some guys are holding on to a resume that doesn't matter anymore. It's about today. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, I say it all the time. If Josh Donaldson says the swing is up, the swing's up. If Barry Bonds says the swing's down, the swing's down. It's all relative to each person. I mean, whatever. I mean, that's what I look at it. Whatever. I mean, what works for you is what works for you. And you go. So I want to key back on what you said about disrespecting, Major League Baseball. I have an idea. So we always talk about, like, you think about the pyramid, right? And the pyramid of success for athletes, at the very bottom, the foundation is always mindset, right? And then you can work up to the skill. But if Major League's the top, how can guys respect Major League Baseball players if the foundation, I'm going to throw this out there, totally making this up on the spot, but let's say the bottom is high school baseball, right? That's the foundation for young athletes coming up. That's kind of the first step, right? Not your select team. It's making varsity, maybe sophomore, junior year. How can you have respect for the top if you have no respect for the bottom and the foundation in today's game?
Well, I think that what you're talking about is essentially, and maybe I'm misinterpreting, but, skipping steps in that pyramid, right? So we're just kind of looking at that bottom level and saying that doesn't matter because it's all about the top level. That doesn't work either. That's like building a house from the roof down. It doesn't happen. So we're not, when I say that we're losing respect for the big leagues, I mean that we're acting as if the guys that did it have no knowledge, or their knowledge isn't more. And there is, and I'm, again, not just players, scouts and executives. And man, look, if I've never sat in a room and had to put my career on the line to make a selection or built a championship roster or tried to, I don't know what that's like. I need to listen to the guys that did it. If I've never stood in the box against a guy throwing, 95 miles an hour with 50,000 fans around me with breaking balls in a run pressure situation and had to focus, I need to listen to what that's like. If I've never coached in high school baseball, I need to listen to what that's like. I need to understand what everybody's contribution can be. And so you can't skip a step, especially one that is the foundation of the house, of the pyramid that you're building, and expect that at the top, it's all of a sudden going to magically change. It doesn't work that way. Yeah,
I mean, and it's crazy how fast this has happened. It's not something just in the past 5 years. It's been ongoing for 10 to 15 years. Does Future Stars, am I saying it right when I say Future Stars, or should I address it as Program 15?
Man, that's a phenomenal, you're full of good questions today. Let's get with it. Program 15 is, let's do the differential. This is great. Okay. Program 15 is the scouting, it's player development, it's the prediction models. It's the way the series is formed. The Future Star Series is the events. Okay. So when you're looking at what, our international week is, which is now the main event, if you're looking at underclass elite or underclass combat, that's all Future Star Series events. The things that support that are Program 15. So either what you want to say is Future Star Series, you're talking about events.
Our email says Program 15. So that's what I say.
Program15.com.
Yeah. I mean, so do we see in the future possibly any Future Stars events trickling down to the younger ages, to the 12, 13, the youth?
So this is something that's come up with the advisory board. Okay. We've talked about more developmental initiatives for kids that are sub 14. I'm a real big proponent personally of kids getting a chance to be kids because they don't get another shot at it. We got the rest of our lives to be adults, right? The rest of our life, you turn 14 years old nowadays, and this game's a business.
Yeah,
it shouldn't be that way. So let's let them be kids as long as we can. Doesn't mean we won't do anything to help. We got to figure out the right way. I really think being involved in communities is the right way with people that are on the ground there. I'm not sure how to make that one happen yet, because what I don't want to be, you guys know me well enough to know to say what I want to say. What I don't want to be is perfect game in USSSA. Yeah. Now it's nothing to get, huh?
No, absolutely. I'm glad you said it.
Nothing against those guys. That's fine for them. That's not what we're going to do. What I want to do is I want to make more community impact and it doesn't matter to me if it's little league or select baseball. It doesn't matter. What I want to do is let kids be kids and be in their communities and be with their families and take family vacations that have to do with baseball, because once they turn 14, they're being recruited now, right? And that didn't used to happen. It's just the way it's been for the last, as you said, 10, 15, I guess maybe 20 years. So I want to keep that going, that youthfulness going as long as possible.
One of the biggest impacts I've seen as far as, Program 15 and Future Star Series on youth guys, I'm going to classify 13 and 14 guys as youth. They are right now. But when our pro guys get on the field with them and they have like their developmental day, that is the most instructive process that I've seen, or impacts that Program 15 has had on youth guys. Yeah. And the fact that they're sitting there for, each team basically gets roughly an hour and a half, but the fact of the matter is they want more after that. They're like, can we do this again? And well, next year you don't get it at 15 because we don't do it. But the fact of the matter is that they're on the field with our guys, and the vast knowledge that each one of those guys bring to the table from a developmental side is crazy. Like there's a ring comp that Booth uses all the time. How many rings? How many World Series rings do those guys bring to the table? At one point, it was like 21 or something like that. I don't remember the exact number. It was crazy. The fact of the matter is, all these guys have played in the World Series before. And, that's a sexy thing for a young guy to hear about. You've played in the World Series? I don't even know who you are, but I see your ring. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden they can let that information or pass down that knowledge and pay it back. And that is the most impactful thing from the youth side that I've seen this company do.
I was saying, you were going to this event in Louisiana, and I was just like, I want to go. just because of the guys that are going to be there. I want to go and shut up and just listen and take it, and there's still, for me, being around these guys and Jeremy and you, just hearing stories, just some great stories in our own facility, some of the guys that come in here. And I think that's cool. That's truly missing in today's events. You go to a U-Trip or whatever event you go to, it's baseball. It's the same thing every weekend. It sounds like what y'all are trying to build is more of an experience. Is that fair to say? It's more of an experience than just a, hey, pay the money, come get evaluated and leave.
Well, I say it's all about the youth, but then all of a sudden you go to the carrot at the end of the stick, the event at Fenway.
Yeah, we're playing at Fenway, man. Ted Williams.
But at the same time, I say it's only for those young guys, but you go to that event and man, the development guys are hands on. Like they're not only there just to kind of go through the experience, like they're there to help guys with, and this is the high end of that 1%.
Yeah.
And they're still getting, developmental notes, and they're still getting, kind of cues and what to do's in certain situations. And not only just, on the field stuff, but, like having their own clubby for the first time. What do you do? I need to tip that guy. He's watching my stuff,
Yeah.
Booth usually takes care of that.
2 years ago, I guess 2019 event, we had our workout day. We had Zach Bean in that event, his 9th pick in the country. We had Dylan Cruz in that event. We had like, I don't know, 14 guys drafted, 15 guys drafted. Okay. I take that back. It was 9 guys in 5 rounds. So that was this year. It was 9 guys in 5 rounds. But I walked, first day of our workout, okay, second day we're getting ready to go, we're taking VP, and guys are still a little timid. I mean, look around and there's, VPs in the stands, and there's, special assistants, and in one case, a GM. And we had guys that were there to see these players a little bit nervous. So we walk into the clubhouse and, I say, hey, man, I'll kind of go around the room. I said, it's September 20, whatever. You guys have all been seen. Is that fair? Yeah. So I look at Zach. I said, you've been seen? Yeah. Dylan, you've been seen? Yeah. Michael Brooks, you've been seen? And let's kind of go around okay, you've been seen. I said, so if you hear it means you're hunting for a game. You're finding a way to get better. You're not coming here just to be seen. That's happened. You're coming here to get better, to make yourself, and to take the next step and hunt for a game. I said, these guys are here to pay you. And they are. They're there to watch them, to pay them. That's what they're there for. I said, go get paid. And they did. And so the difference that we have here is we have that mentality. And this I can say, and I don't mean this in a way that is condescending, but it's just going to come out direct. We've been there. We know where they're trying to go, and we're going to help them get there.
Yeah.
And so if our job is to help close the circle, if you will, of what everybody else has done to help them get to that point, because it is a village. It's not one guy. Certain people get credit. It's a village of experiences, and we're never going to be as hands-on as the people on the ground every day. We tell them that, okay? But if we can close the circle, if we can advance them, if we can give a mindset to it and help them understand what it means to be a professional for that type of level, just as instructional as it is as a 14-year-old or 13-year-old or whatever events that we put together that are progressive. When you get to that point, it's about being paid now. You're no longer a prospect, you're a mercenary.
Yeah.
Because professional baseball makes you a for-hire mercenary. The logo doesn't mean anything because it's going to change. What matters is how the impact you leave on the game when you get out there, and they need to understand how to do that. So from that level, we're instructional as well.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, it's a pretty different insight in how you're handling those guys and having the opportunity to do it. Again, let's dive in now with your years of baseball knowledge and where the game is today. Buckle up. Going back to that 5%, that 10%, the 85 righty, the 85 lefty, junior, senior, that's looking to get to college, right? And the dirtbag type saying, hey, I just want to go to college. I say it all the time. It's it's the recital before the rehearsal, right? And it seems like we're paying. You talked about cost is the first thing, right? You said cost in here. I think the average right now is about $2,500 for summer.
That's still going up. Like it continues to goes up.
Yeah, there's teams in the area. Kids are already telling us what they're charging. I mean, Jeremy, we're having tryouts for summer baseball in December, right? and we all know why. I mean, as one of somebody from the mothership, a coach from the mothership told me, it's, we're all chasing it. Some team comes out and announces, hey, we're having tryouts. Boom, everybody in Houston, we got to have tryouts. And now we're starting to charge. Don't worry, we're going to put you on a payment plan. And at the same time, I can't necessarily blame all the teams because these events in Georgia are getting more expensive. Right? Expecting more. I mean, it's not going to stop. I mean, it's just going to continue. So I'm glad there's somebody out there saying, hey, change the game. And you got to think there's more than just you out there that's thinking we need to stop this and change it.
Hey, the funny thing is that those events are getting more expensive, and the one person who's in the room but not in the room physically he went down in price. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
Why? Because I think he understands the dynamic of really what's going on with families and money situations with COVID.
Yeah.
And he went down in price. You can say what you want about Jeremy Booth, but from a character standpoint, I get it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, he cares about the game. And
well, he cares about, more importantly, he cares about kids. So we always go back to it about, we're only as good as the athlete that walks in the door. And the fact of the matter is, why do we do things? We do things because we care about kids.
Yeah.
And what they do. So anybody that ever calls them selfish, they don't get it.
Yeah.
Because he's not.
Yeah. I mean, for you, we talk about it all the time. And Jeremy, I'll let you start touching on this. Like for us to train here 2 days a week for 2-hour sessions a week with a strength trainer, with nutrition guidance, with all your skills, whether it's throwing, velocity, command, pitch shaping, pitch design, we can go thousands of ways. It's $450 a month, right? And that breaks down to, Chris, you're the stat guy, but go ahead.
$37 an hour.
$37 an hour. And because the reason being, years ago, I was doing the model, right? The 1 hour, once a week, individual, and then it started at 70 and then it's 80. There's people charging $125 to $150 an hour. So for me on the business side, it's if Johnny is getting $100 an hour and he's not bringing, as you know, some of this tech and things that we do, it costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's why are we? So it's like, this model doesn't work. We got to get these guys in here on multiple days a week.
Yep.
And we got people every day saying, jack your prices up, jack your prices up. From a business standpoint, we probably do. But I just can't find right now the reason in doing it. We want to offer as much as we can to help these kids reach their goals because it matters, man. These guys give a shit about this, Jeremy.
There's a perception out there that, and Jared, thank you for what you said. There's a perception out there.
I wouldn't say if it wasn't true, you know that.
No, believe me, I know. There's a perception out there that the more something costs, the better it is, and that's not true. There are people who do things for other reasons because they care, because they're trying to get to people. They're trying to make sure that it's accessible and still make a living. It's a business and all the way around, whether it's what you're doing, whether it's what I'm doing. There are business components of it. And I laugh at some of the people that on the other end say, oh, yeah, man, if it's real, it's free. No. I would go to them and say, do you work for free? Do you work for free? How do you pay your bills? Should I go up to your job every day and ask for your paycheck when you get at the end of the week or every 2 weeks? Because I don't think what you're doing has any kind of real value on my life. So I want your paycheck. Should I do that? And so, that's not going to work either. But, I've seen what you do. I haven't seen it in a couple of years, but I've seen what you do. Okay. I've known you a while. And you've never heard me say anything to you that has been sideways. I've sent people to you. I've referred to. I believe in what you're doing. I like that you're doing it the way you are, price wise. I think that families in general need to do what's best for them and not chase the shiny toy. And I say that because without again indicting anybody, my events. And I would love to sit here and say that Future Stars events and New Balance events are going to make or break a player. Let's get this out here right now. It's not going to make or break a player if you come to the series or you don't.
Yeah.
Right? You'll get better. Yeah, that's our commitment is you're going to get better. And you're going to get more than your money's worth in what you spend because that's what we want to give you. But are you going to survive if you don't show up in Lake Charles, Louisiana or Houston, yeah, you'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, there's value. I mean, that's what you're doing is, okay, people are looking for a product and service. Right? You pay X. This is what you get in return. What's the value in it? I mean, and that's what you guys are doing. That's what we're all trying to do.
I can't look myself in the mirror, man. I couldn't look myself in the mirror and charge 30, whatever it is for a tournament. I can't do that. I can't look myself in the mirror and force people to stay in hotels at 190 to 225 bucks a night. I can't do that. I just can't do it. And I know others do it. And so if that makes me the bad guy for calling our industry out, which I'm a part of, for doing things that way, you don't have to do it that way.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with people making money. What I have a problem with is extortion. And some of this stuff is extortion. So, it's up to families to make their own decisions. I would encourage people that listen to this and to do more homework on what's the best avenue to accomplish what they're trying to do for their children.
Yeah.
Okay. Their kids, because my situation and your situation, JR's situation, and Nick's situation, and Daniel Mangden's situation are all going to be entirely different for the most part. There's always going to be something that's a little bit different. So there is no cookie cutter, one size fits all. If you get somebody who is going to take time with your player, with your child, somebody who's going to be progressive as have a grasp on the methods that are over time that have proven true, and somebody who has what I call the give a shit factor when it comes to what matters, then you should go with that person.
Yeah. I mean, we have, I think it's very similar to y'all. I have 2 evals tonight, new clients coming in, and, the dads get on the phone and they just want to start asking 100 questions. What about this? What about this? And I say, the best way to do this is let's schedule a time in the next week for an evaluation, come in. And the first step of that is they sit right here and we talk for 30 to 45 minutes and we ask goals and questions. And I said, well, all we need to do is we'll evaluate, we'll do all the high frame, whatever you want to see, and we'll dive into it. And then we'll draw out a plan. And let's just make sure that logistically, financially, and our goals are all on the same page to make sure it's the right fit. And if it's the right fit, then we can move on with it. If it's not, we shake hands and we go on. Right. Kids ask me all the time, Jeremy, every year, should I play for this team? Should I go play for this team this summer? My answer, I don't answer it directly. I never give advice. So for the select guys listening, I never tell your guys where to play and not to play. All I ask is, what are your goals this summer? What are you trying to achieve? If you're trying to develop, you're trying to get better and progress, make sure there's freedom in your schedule to do that. There's time for that off-season type work. If you're looking to be recruited and you're ready, go seek that. It's very simple.
Right.
It's very simple. All right. So yeah, earlier we were talking about, Twitter and all your followers and likes. So McCullers comes in a while back. We do some work with him and we make a post and you can see it on there. And he shares it in his story. Me and him are standing there on the mound, this is what you do. Do it for the kids, right? Here you go. And I think at one point, Chris got updated and it said that our post on Instagram was working 33,000% higher than any other post that we've ever made. And part of me chuckles, and I know what comes next. For me, and again, Jeremy, if you need to give me a lesson in business right now, I'm all on. We can edit it out, but I cringe. Part of it, I like it. Like, oh, cool. Look at that. But part of it is I cringe because I know what comes next. And for some reason, I've never liked the idea of being the guy that people come to you because pro guys come. And you can see some of the guys that are back here that are on our screen. If you come here, you know it. But I don't want a guy coming here because, Lance McCullers goes there, or Daniel Meenan goes there, or Bracewell, or these guys. I want to be there. I want guys who walk in the door because they personally need something and want something. When a guy needs it, we can help him, period. And so my Twitter presence is absolutely terrible. If there's anything I wish I could have redone in business, it was 10 years ago, start getting out there and doing it. So when I pipe in, it's like, who the hell is this cat? But you're out there.
Yeah.
You got some good ones, man. I'm not going to lie. I don't know if you've noticed, every now and then I've chimed in and had your back on some things and going, but it looks like, are you old school or new school? Let's get that out of the way first. Where would you classify yourself? I've got it on record, so you can't be completely old school, Jeremy.
No, look at, man, I'm a hybrid. I believe in the positive lessons of the past and that, this game continues to grow and change and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not. And, but I believe that there's always some good progress. I don't see anything wrong with technology and analytics. I don't see it. I just don't. And I don't, I use them. We use stuff like pitch data, pitch FX data and vertical break. And we use stuff like, we use blast and we use TrackMan. We use all the flight, all that stuff. We do that. Where I have a little bit of a disconnect, which isn't the point of the question, is that when we take some of the things that these analytics and technology are meant to quantify and measure, and forget that guys were able to see some of that without maybe the tightening of it without the tech. I think that you're only best when you put it together. I want technology to show me what I can't see.
Yeah.
That's why I use it. I don't need it to show me what I can see with my own eyes. I want to show me what I can't.
So Will Harris, Will Harris, right?
Yeah.
With the Nationals now.
Yeah.
And how old is Will? 36, 37?
Yeah.
One of my favorite pitcher because the dude throws 2 pitches now and just dominates. So when he comes to the Astros, right, this big scientific process, and they're using TrackMan or whatever the hell the Astros use, and he gets rid of the fastball, gets rid of that. He goes cutter curveball, right? Cutter curveball, cutter curveball.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because the data says that the average exit velo on these 2 pitches is better than these 2 pitches. And there's some other stuff there. It's not that simple, but basically it's 80 to 82 on the cutter. It's 88 to 90 on these. And in an era where balls are starting to launch, 90 with the launch is gone, 82 is not. And he just happens to also produce a high rate of ground balls with those pitches. What that is actually called before Rapsodo was out is producing weak contact. And I mean, were you guys able to see this before Rapsodo told you this?
I mean, we've been charting pitches and charting results. It's called keeping a book. Like that's been happening for decades. So, before Rapsodo and TrackMan and data and the way they're framing data, the way we're framing it now, there was also data, and it was called keeping a book. And what you did was Will Harris had, I don't know, let's just say faced 50 hitters as an argument, right? And in those 50 hitters, in those situations, he threw X pitch and got X, Y result. You knew it already. You didn't, you're telling me that a cutter gets a ground ball? Gee, thanks for the revelation, okay? Those balls go east and west. They're not designed to be lift pitches. Lift pitches are 4-seam pitches, fastball, curveball, changeup. See, now you got me going here. So lift pitches are fastball, curveball, changeup, which means you got to throw in the box.
Well, depending on the changeup and the axis of
Yeah, but hold on.
Wait a minute.
They're lift pitches because they have 4 seams. What they do with the action is different. But you throw above the zone, you're trying to get somebody to chase because release point's the same, comes out of the hand the same, rotation's the same. You want them to buy into that and chase. You throw beneath the zone, really starting the ball before the plate, especially with a breaking ball, it's going to miss the hitting zone entirely.
Yeah.
If you're a hitter and you're locked in, trust me when I tell you, forget trust me. It is easier to see 4 seam above and below than it is to see balls that go that way. Okay. So now we've got into pitch design, which is a new way of pitch shaping, which is another way of saying playing with grips and making the ball do things and finding release points. This stuff it's not new. How we're doing it is new. And I'm okay with how we're doing it is new if it's more efficient. Let's just frame it the same way.
Bingo. And I will say, if you came in here today and said, dude, I've got 80% efficiency on my fastball, my wrist is turning a little bit, I need help. The first thing I'm setting up is the Rapsodo, because I'm going to say, all right, Jeremy, let's try this. And we're going to look at the results. Okay, guess what? When we did that, it produced better. It's just more efficient. Do we need it?
No problem with it. None. I use it. I have no problem with it being efficient.
This guy back here is way more new school than me because I have to wrestle him to get the Rapsodo off the floor sometimes because he's like, dude, it just speeds my job up. It just makes it easier. Mm-hmm. But even in here, we have to be careful because it's like when 14 and 15-year-olds come in and they want to talk about, hey, I need to work on my curveball. It's like, dude, you can't throw a fastball 60'6". Why are we working on spinning a breaking ball? Why are we working on a changeup till this is clean? And
right.
So what I see happening, now we can go new school, old school. And I am poking the bear. So we can go new school, old school. It's like these new school guys who borrowed $4,000 to go buy a Rapsodo, by the way. I was that guy. I had to borrow it.
2 of them, actually.
Yeah, 2. Thank you, Mark, when you're listening to this. But it's like they just think they reinvented the world. I mean, there's videos of Nolan Ryan talking about why he threw his fastball up in the zone. There's videos of Hank Aaron saying, hey, science can tell you once that ball rises, and I can't hit it.
Right.
Dude.
Right. I don't know where we got the idea that baseball was invented in 2015. I don't understand that.
That's a good. That's a good way of putting it.
I think that what we need to say, is we need to understand that we've had baseball around for a long time. The game goes in cycles, right? For a while, it was a four-seam game. Then it went to sink or slider game. Then back to a four-seam game. You know what's happening now? Surprise, surprise. We're going back to East and West, and we're starting to move balls out of the hitting zone. That's it. How we're measuring and how we're quantifying is just, as we've said a couple times, more efficient. I personally want to know what the deeper insights show me in blast. I don't use it for balls that are in one spot, thigh high. Anybody can hit that. I want to know what your athleticism is on the ball. It's a little bit out of the zone. You got to hit. I want to know when you accelerate and decelerate your swing. I want to understand how you can change planes with your swing with efficiency. I like the concept of Rapsodo and how efficient your spin is. I'm good with all that stuff. Okay.
Go ahead.
But to me, we still were able to see that just without the actual scientific numbers to go with it before it existed. Let's just be better with what we have now.
Let's see how far I can push here. You know, do you think Major League Baseball has any responsibility with this? And the reason being is yesterday an article came out, right? And they've been doing some weird things the past couple of weeks and putting it back on the players with COVID. They're good at that in the public eye, right? They're good politicians themselves. I saw the article where Major League Baseball said, you know, all these home runs, we're going to change the ball. You go back to a year or two ago when they changed the ball to help produce more home runs as well. And it's funny how things that we forget, and I'm going to tell you, not to dive into politics, as everybody's arguing over mask and over a wall and over, I don't care if you're right or left. I'm the middle class guy over here going, am I the only one that pays $22,000 a year in health insurance?
Yeah.
Is anybody else having problems with this?
No,
They hide it.
they're
right?
changed though. And and you hear people talk all the time about, you know, overloading and underloading in a workout scenario. You're going to make the ball lighter. What's that going to do?
Let me say it to you this way, and I'll use, you know, my personal concept of the United States government, not from a candidate or party standpoint, what it's supposed to be. Okay, it's supposed to be a system, if what I was taught, of checks and balances, where decisions are made by the will of the majority for the good of the people. Okay, that's the government. Now let's just take that and apply that to baseball for a second. What you have is Major League Baseball has come back to us as a sport gently and said, don't get mad at us because what we tried to do didn't work. We're just going to kind of sneak this back in on you and we're going to do it this way. Sorry, single party rule didn't work here. Okay, that's what they're saying. Now, I think it was 2 years ago, and obviously 2020 didn't matter because we didn't have a minor league season, but AAA had, you know, it's 11,000% more home runs than they had in any other time prior, even the year before. Using the major league ball. To me, forget the jump in the big leagues, because again, those guys, that's big league talent. We literally changed the baseball in AAA and saw astronomical numbers go up. We've seen more strikeouts than ever before. Some people will say pitching. I disagree. I think it's how we're teaching hitting. I don't argue guys are throwing harder than ever before. Athletes are bigger, faster, stronger, no question about it. But the role longevity has changed as an industry and as a game, as far as starters versus relievers, as the emphasis on velocity and effort and intensity has changed versus durability. And you have, from a hitting standpoint, you have swings that are grooved and carved out to lift the baseball only. What you have then is you have more strikeouts, you have more walks, right? And guess what? You have more home runs. Because with more mistakes and more power on both sides comes more home runs. Now you got a ball to it that's designed to fly better. And yeah, that's what you get. But you know what else you get? You get 4.5 hour games.
And you get bigger contracts. You get paid.
Because we're valuing that. But you get 4.5 hour games. So as an industry of teachers, how do you look at a player at the time? Because it's changing now, and I'll give you some examples as to how it's changing. How do you look at a player and say, hey, don't throw hard? Sorry, what? How do you look at a player and say, don't hit the ball in the ballpark? Excuse me? That's how I get paid, right? What's happening now is that these guys have figured out that the things they eliminated still pretty good. And so consistent contact is now becoming more, I don't know, vogue, I guess is the word. Like everybody wants to do this now. We don't want to swing and miss. And man, we want to get ground balls. Ground balls matter again. Imagine that, right? Yeah. And batting average. You mean getting hits is the biggest component of on-base percentage? Who knew? Who knew that mattered, right? That's where we are. And so we're getting away from the three true outcomes because somehow Major League Baseball has figured out they won't tell you this yet, but they figured it out, that there aren't any true outcomes. Everything that you do is predicated or controlled by the previous pitch in the game.
Yeah.
Home run's not a true outcome, man. There's a guy on first base and it's 1-0, man. That's a hell of a lot different than 0-1. So you're not looking at the game as they weren't looking at the game as the way it's played on the human element. They were looking at a piece of paper and saying, well, in theories of control, strikeouts are control, home runs are control, walks are control. They're not. They're all set up by how the game is flowing. As you get away from that, you will see them conspiracy work their way back in on the other side without telling you, hey, man, we were wrong. We messed this one up. They're going to bring it back, shorten the games to try to get kids who, by the way, have the attention spans of a flea compared to what we had growing up because of how these are, back interested in baseball.
What do you think about today's game and the home runs and the way we play it? Do you miss the moving the runners? Do you miss situational baseball? Or do you like it?
I think that the game has always had guys who swung and missed. I think the game has always had guys who were relievers and threw hard. This stuff doesn't bother me. What does bother me is that we're making everybody the same type of player. That bothers me. So when it comes to hitting runs or stealing bases or moving runners, I think that's playing baseball. And I think that at the younger levels, we need to teach that more because they need to have a better foundation of the game. But I think that something I learned when I was 19 years old, which is when I first went out to play, which is every bit as true today as it was then, is that the first 6 innings of a game are the players. It's theirs. Steal bases, hit home runs, strike guys out, play the game, get ahead. Last 3 innings of the game are the managers because that's when he has to win. What does that mean? That means you don't sacrifice individuality and creativity for what I would call manufactured players. You don't do that. You have to have the athleticism and you have to have the freedom to be who you are, regardless of what that is. But you have to be able to play the other side of the game as well to win baseball games. And I don't think we're doing that. I think we're sacrificing it and say, hey, this is how we're going to get paid. And then we go through a lineup where everybody's striking out or we have, guys blowing out and we can't keep guys on staff all year. We wonder why we can't win games.
I think what you just said was pretty cool. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about the pyramid where high school baseball starts there. And you can go lower than that. You can go to 11 and 12. I was talking to JR the other day and some of the youth kids that come in here and hitting. I was like, man, you're the hitting guy, but from my perspective of what they just miss, it's like what most of our pitchers miss is throwing with conviction, right? Everybody wants to talk about pitching problems at 11, 12 years old. They have throwing problems. Man, right. Pitching problems don't exist until you grow and get mature and commanding the mitt and stuff. We just can't throw. We don't throw with conviction. We don't throw enough. We don't throw to different spots and adjust. Throw it arm side, throw it glove side, throw it arm side. And I watch hitters, they just don't do enough of? Just bat the ball. Just enough BP, just enough flips every day. That would solve a lot of problems because do we ever really stop training players and athletes? If you play for 20 years, 30 years, we're always looking for more. We're always changing.
100%.
But watching some of these kids and their abilities to just barrel balls, it does seem a little bit different. And because, look, I'm all for the 30-minute hitting lesson once a week, once a month, however you're getting evaluated is fine. But what I think a lot of guys are going hitting lesson, the practice on the field, game, hitting lesson. So they're just missing reps, right? If you're a basketball player, you have a goal in your driveway, that's where it starts, where the greatness starts.
No doubt. As a kid, that's what you did. When you got out of school, you go out there and match up whoever you're going to match up against and be whatever team you're going to be. I was always at Oakland A's because I loved imitating swings. And so, a one-on-one deal was, all right, you're the Astros, I'm the A's. And we're going to imitate every swing, and we're going to play 9 innings in a day after school. And guys don't do that anymore. You don't go out with a racquetball or tennis ball and hit balls. You don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
You play on your phone, Instagram or whatever you want to do, Snapchat or watch YouTube videos all day long. You don't go outside anymore. You know what I mean? That's so losing touch of being a kid first, but secondly, that's where your swings came from as a kid. They don't do that anymore.
Yeah. I mean, to Jeremy and the T on this is like anybody listening to this in the youth world who just loves going out there on the weekends. I'm sure it is fun. It's a social event, especially right now with COVID. Dear God, I would love to go out and hang out on the weekend and watch kids play baseball and stuff like that. And just to be able to socialize with actual people. they're probably looking at this going, screw these guys, right? They're talking about it in fun, but a lot of these guys are serious about it at 12 and 13 years old. And again, it goes back to your reason why. I think you addressed that earlier. And so here we go in the technology world. This is what pisses me off. All right, now we can flip it to the hitting side, right? I'm sick of the launch angle argument. There's a fucking launch angle on every swing, right? Every ball batted, there is a launch angle.
Every swing.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you.
It's a misnomer that people threw out there as a negative connotation to describe what they thought people were trying to achieve. But the scientific fact is that every swing has a launch angle, every single one.
So what I see, and correct me, I'm going to see what I see and see if you see a tendency or trend the same. If you disagree, throw your thoughts in there. I see guys taking it and taking young kids and saying, hey, we've got to hit home runs. And I get behind the intentions of it. I know Driveline, they're starting their youth program and they're teaching these kids to swing with intent. And some of it I like. They're at least teaching these kids to swing with conviction and say, let's learn to get after it at a young age. That's what they're doing. But there are the other guys who are taking it farther. So I'll tell you what I like is I like the way JR can look at a guy who's a junior and senior in high school and saying, look, man, I want to go to college. Okay, well, you're a 6'3", 240-pound first baseman, and you've got an average launch angle, right, at
9 degrees.
9 degrees. It doesn't play, bro. You're not going to get reps in college being that guy. You're not going to play first base. Or you're a lefty out of the box who's let's say a 6'5", 60 guy, and you're trying to elevate and hit the ball, and you got an average exit velo of 85.
Yeah, in scouting, we would say, in development too, but in scouting, when it comes to, again, paying people, right, we would say that you have to play to your skill set. You have to play how it looks. I'm 6'5", and at playing weight, playing shape, I was 240 pounds. Okay.
Wait, say that again.
At playing shape, I was 240 pounds, 6'5", 240. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. You know that?
Yeah, that's you're a large guy.
Huge.
What are you at now?
Huge.
I'm about 18 pounds heavier than that. So
okay, we'll go with that. You do the math on your own. All right, keep going.
How about that? As of the gym today, it was 258 pounds. Here's what I'll tell you. If I went out and I was hitting ground balls and bunting and trying to steal bases, it doesn't play. It doesn't work, right? You have to be able to live into your role. My role was to drive the baseball. And they didn't want me swinging and missing, but I still had to drive the baseball. If you're a speed player and you're, what we call in the scouting scale, let's say a 70 runner, right? And your asset is line drives, you can turn into doubles and steal a base, and you're just trying to yank the ball, it doesn't play. So you have to live into what you're supposed to be, or we call it an upside down profile or a misfit. And so JR has a scouting background, so he's able to look at the technology and apply that to the role and be able to make that happen. And the same's in college as in pro ball.
Well, hold on, Jeremy. I agree with everything that you're saying. How does it play? How do kids get recruited with that though, Jeremy? Not if you say don't go program 15 plug on me now, right? But no, if you're the 5%, you're the 88, 90 exit velo guy and you can run, right? Obviously the running matters at showcases. At least we're still doing, that still matters, running 60s, right? We can argue that all day, but they're getting their speed. But these kids are working exit velos. So I'm going to say some of it's not their fault. They're working exit velos at these showcases because they think colleges want that.
It's 100% not their fault. What we have is, and I'll throw one of my ex-coaches a little bit of a plug and a little bit of blame. You guys remember Gary Ward from Oklahoma State, right? Gary Ward's kid was Rocky. Well, I played for Rocky at New Mexico State on Rocky's first team in 1997, okay? Man, they were doing exit velocities and radar readings and all that stuff that they could get their hands on back in the mid-90s, okay? So when I turn around and I see the stuff we've turned into today, that's not new. Rocky would sit down with me and talk about my exit velocity or, how I was getting to the baseball or the angles in the swing. He would do all that stuff at 19, 18 years old. Like, it didn't matter. So this isn't new to me. Those guys started all this. Everybody's just got it now.
Yeah.
We're just, again, what they should be is just quantifiable ways to talk about tools. So we use a 60-yard dash as an argument or as a discussion point. We run the 10, the 40, and the 60. The one that I want to know is the 40. Yeah. 60-yard dash tells me athleticism, how long they can hold it, but I want to know the 40. That's what I want to know. The 10 matters, but the 40 is applicable, right? So we're not, for us to look at the 40 speed, I can see a guy run a 40, and as long as the body control is there, I can tell you what a 60 is going to be within half a 10.
Yeah.
It's just not, it's not that hard to figure out. So the analytical side that they're being recruited on, it's happening now because more and more guys are looking at that as tangible ways to quantify power. Takes the guesswork out of it. If you can establish that, and I'm just throwing a number out, 92 is plus power. All right. Well, we want to know that if you got 95 mile an hour exit velocity, then that's fine. Where we get off track is we're doing this off a tee with big swings that don't play. We have to use playable numbers, playable approaches, right? And so if a guy's going to go ahead and throw as hard as he can, and it's off the backstop, but it's 98, he didn't throw 98. He threw a ball off the backstop at 98, right? I want to see where it is in the strike zone. If a guy, we've seen, how many infielders have we seen, even on Twitter, pick a ball up, take 17 steps, and throw it as hard as they can across the field. I don't care if it's 99, man. How does it play?
Yeah. Do it in 3.76 seconds.
Hey, specifically knowing exactly what video you're talking about, that kid did throw the shit out of it. He did exactly what he was asked to do.
100%. I posted it. I posted that, and I said, it's sad this kid thought he had to do it this way. This is on them. They don't have to do it that way. If you know what you're looking at, okay, if you know what you're looking at, I mean, I don't care who hears this. You don't need to see that.
Yeah.
Watch the guy pick it up. Watch how it comes out of his hand. Watch his actions. Watch the rhythm. Tell me where he's going to be able to play based on his instincts, right and left. What his function is with his approach, and how the arm's going to come across the diamond. That's scouting. And these kids are misled into believing they have to show this raw tools, maximum effort, everything, because that's how they're going to get recruited. They're not, because the first thing after that I get from any coach, and it's not just me, we all get it. What do I got? How's it going to play? You know, I had one coach talk to me about a player that said, yeah, I think he's just going to have to get the most out of his body. He never once mentioned his exit velocity.
Yeah.
Never once mentioned how hard he threw, those are tool markers you got to have anyway. Right? So it's really about how you're going to be able to play. So this is where the other groups that we've talked about, and I'm not saying everybody, but other groups besides us, because we don't do it this way, they end up misleading players because that doesn't work.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. But they do that because, wait for it, ready? Here you go. Here's your bomb, okay? They're not good enough to scout. So they don't know what they're looking at. It's okay to use that exit velocity as a measuring tool. Man, I'm all for it. It's okay to use spit efficient. I love it. Give me more. Like, give it to. But if you have to rely on that 100% of the way, 100% of the way, without any kind of instinct or tool centering, you're misleading your kids because they'll never be able to tap into it on the other side. Understand how to use it, understand how to make it play, how to build it, which is one of the reasons why I like watching what you do with pitchers, because every time I see one of your guys, it plays. It's not something I got to worry about where it doesn't at least have an approach.
Yeah.
It doesn't. I'm not worried about guys throwing 98 off the backstop.
Well, we have a kid now we put out there on Twitter, and he's very, very raw. I mean, this guy has potential to be, I don't know, me and JR argue, is he a hitter? Is he a pitcher? Who cares right now? Maybe he's both. So we put a deal out there on him, and he was sitting indoors in November right before we shut him down, and he was 92 to 93.6, and he has basically no experience pitching. And put it out there. Here, boom. And we started getting some feedback and things out there. But what I knew, and I argue with JR because there was a college saying, hey, you have any video of this? Like, no, I don't. And they asked me straight up, how does it play? I don't know how it plays. I've never seen it play in a game. I've seen him indoors, 93 miles an hour. I see raw, but I get their questions about it, right?
He literally came from, was it? Saudi Arabia. Yeah, he came from Saudi, you know, like his
dad was working over there. They moved back over here.
So no one knows who he is. No.
Okay, there's a kid from the White Sox. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so there's this kid there, and that's an example. You send it out to colleges, the first thing they're saying is, well, how does he command the play? How does he command his own? So I'm on the other side going, it's 93 raw. What can you do and take it? It's not polished at all, but man, it could be great. He has that opportunity because that ball came out 93.6. For the guy who's just again, I'm going to say your average player, but above average, looking for a college, grinding, man, exit velo 90 plus is awesome. Cool. How does it play? So for me, it kind of goes back to the old school stats a little bit, which is why I'm a big component of high school baseball. if a guy can come in here junior year and we can say, can we see your stats? Because we help our guys with the recruiting. We're all, like you said, it takes a village, right? And if you can go put up a decent junior year, well, then you can go to the college there. I love summer teams that actually keep stats, the old school stats. And if you're not doing that and you're listening, keep stats on your players. I love the videos. I love the home runs. That does help as well.
Right.
But exit velos are great. Unless you're that 1% margining and you're spinning balls up there above everybody else, you blend in. But man, does it play on the field? So it goes back to mindset, character, how does it play? That's never going to change in the game. So that's not happening in the showcase model.
Well, it's not happening in the other showcase model. Will say it happens with us. What I would say is there's always been a component, once again, of developing in private, right? The raw tools and honing your skills, and then having to see how it plays on the field to see if the results translate. Okay. That's always been part of it. That's no different now, just because we're doing no more stops, a little more efficient information, maybe some other things we're doing to quantify. Tell me what's changed. Same thing that you said earlier about, these kids going out and playing on the weekend and having to put the work in. When I was in high school, there was a college, a major university, a Power 5, if you will, that was not too far from my house where I grew up in Southern California. I had the keys to the batting cage. I go there at midnight, seriously, go there at midnight, and I'd be able to drive in the complex, and I'd go get the key because it was hidden for me there, and I'd turn it on, turn the lights on, and the campus police would come by, know I was in there, and they leave me alone. My buddies and I would hit till, 1, 2 in the morning. I'd go back home and go to sleep, and I didn't have a coach with me. I didn't have somebody instructing every move. It wasn't a lesson. You know what it was? It was me taking ownership of the time I did have with coaches and the instruction I did have when I was able to get it during high school baseball practice, or even then, I guess they weren't called lessons then, but private instruction with guys I grew up around in Major League Baseball or other coaches and scout leagues and stuff like that. And I applied it in the cage based on feel and what the ball did.
Yeah.
Tell me how that's different than today. Somebody comes to see you, then they go out and they perform and they go get their extra work in. Are they going to be with you 5 days a week? I'm just thinking, no, they got stuff they got to do. They got to be able to apply it on feel, what they've learned with you, and what the ball does. So it doesn't change. We're just using different methodology, which is the most frustrating part of the old school versus new school.
We had a parent call a couple months back who was really disappointed in the performance of his son on the field. And he's like, man, I see the numbers in the facility and they're good. They're really good for where he's at. But the dad was like, man, I'm sorry to call you and tell you this, but I don't think it's translating. And I told him, I said, no, you probably should have called 2 months ago instead of waiting, because I said, here's how it goes with our kids a lot of times. You walk in, now we're getting into high school scrimmages and stuff like that. Hey, how was your outing last night? Good. Okay, what was good about it? And when I look at them and they don't know how to break down their game. They don't know how to look at it. So we're working on a way. I don't know if it's like a kiosk station where they check in and they're asked a bunch of questions. That's probably, Chris, what we need to go to, and one to teach it, because they don't know what a good. So I got 2 good outings. Ready for you? One of them was good. My fastball was riding up to 90. I was sitting 88, 2 innings, 4 strikeouts, no walks, no hits. That's a solid 2 inning day. Here's the other good one. It was good, and you look at it, he gave up 3 hits, 3 walks, and 5 strikeouts in 2 innings. And so you're taking the good. They don't know the difference. And why? I'm not saying it's a blame at young levels or whatever. They don't know what a good outing is as a pitcher. They don't know. Just on the same side as there. You go 0 for 3, and you barrel up 2 balls hard. It's a successful day.
I had a freshman yesterday. Hey, how'd your scrimmage go? And he goes, well, I had one shitty swing. It was a double. I think it was the best swing I had all day. I lined out to shortstop. So I was 1 for 2 with a bad swing, but a double. Okay. Yeah. That's great. It's a good day. Any double's a good day. You know what I mean? Like, you take a shady swing and take a knock all day long.
Yeah. I got a buddy who's a high school coach. He's going to be on here in a couple of weeks, and I love him because he's fiery. And what's crazy is like 6 years ago, he literally hated my guts for being in the training world. Somehow I don't even know if we've mended it, but he's coming on here. And he made a post the other day, and I felt for him. As a varsity baseball coach, he said, hey, to all you select and gurus out there. Before you go into the world of advanced data, can we start with just teaching basic base running skills? He said we had to spend a whole practice, not showing, but teaching my varsity players how to run bases. And, you know, of course he started getting backlash for it, but I kind of felt for him in there, and he's not wrong. I mean, you go out to high school practices, we're working on bunt coverages, first and third moves, situational defense all the time. You go out to a youth practice, we're working bunt coverages, first to third. Like, I don't even know where the fuck I'm going with this. It's just, I mean, we can go all day, but I mean, and it's, I don't know, man. It's like there's just no governing body over what we're doing. What really matters? Is it the tools? Is it the skills? Or is it the game? And to me, it's a hybrid. Like you said, what you are, it's a hybrid of all of them.
The ones that make it have a mixture of tool markers, which you got to have to advance. And let me say with that, everybody that's walking the face of the earth will meet their athletic equal at some point or another. Doesn't matter. It could be high school, it could be in the big leagues, but you're going to meet your athletic equal at some point. Just the way it's going to be.
Yeah.
Separates you then is the ability to live into your role. That goes back to like being, 6'3" and 240 and not being able to drive the baseball, right? And the ability to execute. And that's play baseball. That's play baseball, right? So if you and me are similar athletes, and I live into my role and I can play baseball and you don't, guess who's getting the job?
Yeah.
It is. And so ultimately parents have to understand, and kids need to understand that, this whole thing about like, let the kids play. I'm going to go back and ask people to look at Ricky Henderson and Willie Stargell and even Hank Aaron. And let's go back and look at Mark McGuire. Let's go look at, basically picks Kurt Gibson. Like, these guys all played the game differently, but they all had fire. And Ricky was probably, at least Deion Sanders. Ricky in my time, I mean, who was more flashy than that? He was best.
We used to hit with Ricky back in the day.
Nobody's flashier than Ricky.
I grew up around him since I was about 5. Yeah. So, but yeah, Deion Sanders, the chains everywhere, right? That's new. It's not new. Like, what do you mean let the kids play? We've been doing this forever. Like, who's the first? Reggie Jackson pimped a home run in 1977 and threw the bat like in the 16th row.
It's kind of funny, by the way, hearing Reggie Jackson like get into it with Kurt Schilling. I mean, and I get it off the field stuff with Kurt, but it's like, ooh.
Randy Johnson would strike guys out and scream at them. Like, who cares? Juan Berenguer. Like, this isn't new. Like, this isn't new. So we just really got this sense that whoever we're doing today is totally like remaking baseball. It's not. What's changed is what we're valuing. That's changed. Some of the ways where we are measuring it. Okay, that's fine. We've been measuring forever. And frankly, where I have a problem, and yes, this is a setup for the next thing that I'm sure is coming, is I got a problem with the way people are handling things.
Yeah.
I got a real problem with some of the toxicity in the game today. I got a problem with, I have a problem with some people who I think are doing good things. And I'm talking about this particular comment, not all of it, because I think it's on both sides. Has to do with guys who haven't had any professional experience until recently, doing everything they can to eliminate people who have, okay? Because their message is being lost. Their message is being lost. People who are ultimately the game's going to swing back. It always does. And hopefully we should come out with a balance of things that we are doing today, coupled with what we did before.
Why is Jeff Fry so pissed off?
Good question.
And for those of you who don't know who Jeff Fry is, She Gone Nation, he's pissed off. Why is he so pissed off, Jerry?
He's a pretty good player who, and I say pretty good player from a big league standpoint. So let's just make it clear. He was a 1%er of the 1%. Okay. But in that role, he was a pretty good player.
Yeah.
Okay?
He was a big league ball player, man.
The ball player. Okay. Jeff was an agent after that. He's kind of watched things kind of progress in the game. He was an analyst for the Rangers, I believe, at one point. Jeff is a nice guy. He really is. Cares about kids. He cares about the game as a whole. Somehow, I can't remember exactly. At the time, it's a pandemic, so I couldn't tell you if it was last week or 9 months ago. I don't know. But somehow he kind of got tired of watching some of the things that are going on that don't make sense. Now, there are things, and I'll say one thing that I don't understand, and I've listened, and I don't understand why we do it, and that's the PVC pipe and hitting. I don't get it. Now, look, I'm not saying if it works for somebody, they can't do it. Be an individual, find something that works for you in training, man, by all means, get it, okay? When it comes to weighted baseballs, people will look at me and say, are you for or against? And no one's ever really heard me make a comment either way. You and I've had this conversation. I've never said if I'm for or against it. You know why? Because I think it's a completely individual thing.
Me either, by the way, and we have them here in the facility.
Yeah, I think it's a completely individual thing. I think there's strength markers you need to have, athletic markers you need to have to use it, and use them appropriately with minimal injury risk. But at the same time, I was 15 years old in an American Legion All-Star game. For those of you who don't know that, that's like playing in a, I don't know, like an underclass All-Star, okay? An American Legion All-Star game, and I got Randy Wolf out there, and I'm playing catch with him, who's a Connie Mack, like a select league teammate, and we're playing catch with like this big lead ball that's wrapped in tape, and we're throwing it at 15 years old. So like
weighted baseballs?
Yeah. So like, this isn't new to me. Like, I've seen all this stuff forever. What the difference was is that Randy could handle it.
Yeah.
Right. He could handle it. It was being taught correctly. So I think that what Jeff's real big problem is, he doesn't want families being misled. Now, some of the people you're seeing work against him are people who are running businesses, of course, right, that feel like Jeff is attacking them. Do I think, and I've kind of said this to him, that he's getting a little broad sometimes? You know, he gets broad, all right? Well, I think he gets broad in how he looks at it. But in his defense, people are sending things to him saying, what is this, what is this, what is this? And he feels like he has a platform now, and he kind of calls it out, and it gets a little bit away from him.
Yeah.
I've seen people go back to him. I've seen people come at him. Some of these people that have said some things in reply, they don't have any business around kids and any business around baseball. But, you know, there's things that have also, he said, that he's had to be educated on a little bit. And he's owned it. You know, ABCA is a good example. You know, Ryan Brownlee and him had a what I thought was eloquent conversation on Twitter. I was in that thread. Not sure how I ended up there, but I was in that thread.
Yeah.
And Jeff listened. There's another guy who's a scout with an organization who is on the youth side a little bit, and he's on the club side. He's a high-ranking scout, and he kind of went back at Jeff a little bit about Jeff's philosophies, and Jeff talked about him a little bit. So he's not afraid to listen. What he's doing, though, is he's attacking what he believes from what he's seen at his viewpoint. Doesn't make any sense. Now, I've never seen him attack things that can be supported by information. But I have seen him look at families in his mind getting ripped off. I have seen him look at things that he knows aren't going to translate, just flat out knows they're not going to translate, and attack them pretty aggressively. So it's not my method. We're all individuals. That's not how I would do things. But I have a problem, for example, with groups that call themselves scouts that have no idea what it means to be a scout. I got a problem with that. I got a problem with guys who haven't spent 225 days a year on the road and sell these kids something for $900 an event or $500 an event. It doesn't leave them any better than when they got there. That's why I started what we're doing.
Yeah. I have a problem with scouts writing the same reports as the Wolfpack.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not a part of, by the way. I'd be a hypocrite if on the scouting side and even some of the development side, I said that I didn't understand why Jeff was so pissed off, man. We just started this conversation talking about being pissed off about families paying as much as they are for not getting no product. That said, that's Jeff's approach.
Yeah, so I'm going to go on here. So producer guy over there, let's make sure at this mark we tag Jeff Fry. And Jeremy, I'm going to have to rely on your relationship here to find a way to get Jeff Fry on this show. But I think here's what I would like to see. Once the dust settles, look, I think we all got cabin fever a little bit too. So we're getting, the Twitter has grown and it's just like, you know, fuck it. Let's just go at it. It's fun. But yeah, he asked some good questions. What the hell is this guy doing? And it's like, okay, well, let's do it. let's get we got Zoom. You're across the country right now, right? This is crazy. We're talking to each other and we're miles apart. And let's get Jeff and let's get some of these other guys that he has issues with, some of them, and whatever. And let's let Jeff ask the question and let's explain it. Maybe, I don't know. This could be the most epic Zoom meeting ever. It may last, it may work. But when you ask the question,
I'll commit to doing that with you, D. I'll talk to Kevin Euclid. I'll talk to Jeff Fried, and I'll talk to a couple other guys and get them on and have a conversation. The problem that you're gonna have with some of this, and this is where it gets unfortunate, is that Jeff's actually received death threats. That's not a joke.
But what did I say a couple of months back? I said, this is going to get personal.
Yeah. And unfortunately, Twitter only gives you a certain number of characters. And so, it's not like us having a conversation. It's just going to communicate that way. But he's got people that have sought him out. He's got people that contacted employers. We're in an era where, and the ironic part of this is that the era we're in now, let's call it an analytical era. Let's just say that just to tag it for a second, analytical era. The era that we're in now, wasn't too long ago, the people that are putting these theories out or putting these drills out there were complaining about not being heard. Oh, you're not listening to me. I got this good stuff. I got this. I can make a change, make a difference. And here comes somebody else and has a different point of view. Oh, we got to put this guy to bed. Like, he can't talk. He's got to be. It's the same thing that they were complaining about. It's like the analysts in the front office. Nobody's listening to us. And then we're listening to them. And now they're not listening to the scouts because now they got control of the floor.
Yeah.
Like, there's room for everybody in the discourse. And Jeff's got his own way of doing it. He's a good human at heart. He's not a bad person. He goes after people he believes are robbing families blind, whether it's a scouting association, whether it's a developmental group, whether it's a ranking service. And he's not wrong in a lot of the stuff that he says. I think what upsets people is his delivery method. Right. And I think that's what it comes down to.
I mean, for me, when Jeff was first coming out, I'll admit, I got a little pissy about it. Like, what the hell? Why is he doing this? And then as I was kind of back, I can say, well, he's a major league player. So even me, who can jump on that other side, like, we use the core velocity belt. We had Lance Wheeler on yesterday. Yeah. I think the core velocity belt is an incredible tool. I don't like gimmicky stuff. It's not gimmicky, man. It works. And what if I told you, I want to tell, like, Jeff, like, what if I told you that Lance McCullers was in here with the belt on, working, and with a PVC pipe? And I sat there with him and I'm watching him do his moves and I'm like, okay, why do you do this? And he says, I feel this and I feel this and I feel this. Just like Barry Bonds saying, I feel the swing's down or I feel it's up. So if a guy like that and Lance McCullers is speaking, I shut up and I listen. The same thing with Jeff Fry. For me, I want to learn from him. Is there something that even that we could change here at Performance Edge to be better for the next generation and future? Is there something that we're missing because we're younger? Right. And I think that's the case where I'd like to see it to go. I'm all for arguing and I love the Twitter battles sometimes, but when it gets personal, and I can see their other side, this is their livelihood. And when you threaten, let me tell you, you threaten me or my family, I'll fucking come after you, period. And so there needs to be a fine line there. And like you said, and it is some keyboard warriors. Sometimes you can't interpret what the meaning is behind it.
I think the questions need to be asked. I try to ask questions a lot. When it comes, and again, I just went on record here and I said it on Twitter, the only thing that I can't see any foundation for, and again, if it works for you, do it, right? And works for you doesn't mean that you're a one-dimensional player. That's not working for me. But if it works for you, do it. Is the PVC pipe when it comes to hitting.
Yeah.
But I had a conversation with a guy named David Ring. Okay. David Ring's based in San Diego. We've probably all seen his Twitter, David Ring Development, does some stuff with hitters. And there was a video about him doing PVC pipe stuff, right? And I asked him, I said, hey man, look, tell me what it's for. And he said, well, I don't want a hitter to actually swing that way. For him, meaning for David, I was trying to show angles.
And direction.
Okay. Good enough for me, man. Does it work? Like, that's like, I'm going to add. It's still not something I would necessarily use, or if I was incorporating into my library, but I understand the concept, right? You got to ask the questions for the concept. There is no one way to develop a baseball player. There's people that need to feel things a certain way. I feel like I applaud Jeff for calling out what he thinks is snake oil. And that's, again, snake oil. By some people just selling gimmicks that doesn't have any applicable translation. On the other side of it, I think we got to turn around and ask more questions.
Yeah, and I'm a big component in, I really truly believe that talent is grown and not born. And it's our job to seek it out and find our limitations. So when Jeff gets on the deal, like parents wake up, only 1% are going to find the major leagues. Well, Jeff, it's our job to find that. It's our job to bring that out and help. Who is the next 1%? Who is the next CEO or the next doctor or lawyer? And are we part of that process? We're going to have more doctors and successful businessmen come out of Performance Edge than what we are major league players. And I hope that when we hold players accountable and responsible for it, that is part of that process. Being better humans, being responsible academics and going to college and getting it done. That's what truly matters at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I will also say for Jeff, remember, Jeff is a self-made player. Now, we talked about, or was a self-made player. We talk about the 1% of the 1%. We talked about his career. He was a good player for the time he was in the big leagues. But he was like a senior sign. Like, if you look at it, he wasn't like that first rounder where everybody's screaming for him. He had to make his way through it.
Yeah.
He had to figure out what worked for him. For him, it was keeping it simple based on what I'm able to hear from him, right?
Yeah.
He's older than I am, so I never played against him. But hearing from what he had to say, he just kept it simple and played baseball. That's what worked for him. All right.
That's all. That's what would work for him and his tools and his body.
That's it. So his way doesn't necessarily have to, and that's what he's trying to say. Is it's not like there's one way to do it, but he's calling out what he feels our parents get in hustle.
And it's fair to say that most players coming up are more like Jeff Fry in his skill set than a Manny Ramirez or a Barry Bonds, right? There's more Jeff Frys coming up right now in high school than what there are Barry Bonds.
Agreed, 100%.